Innovators Journey, the show where we go behind the bold ideas and breakthrough moments with leaders, thinkers, and change makers shaping how we understand the world around us. I'm Nick Franck, and today I'm joined by Dr. Kristen Donnelly, founder of Abbey Research and Chief Operations Officer of Abbey Companies, a sociology and research firm uncovering the stories behind data and human behavior. With a PhD in sociology from Queen's University Belfast, along with a master's degree in divinity and social work from Baylor, Kristen brings a multidisciplinary lens to everything she does. Dr. Connolly, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I'm super excited to dive in about this burnout cultural problem that we have across maybe the United States, maybe the world. You've said burnout, it's a cultural problem, not personal failing. So can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that and how this kind of approaches your perspective to solutions?
Absolutely. For a long time, burnout has been talked about as someone's fault. And that if you just did this, if you did more yoga, if you took more vacations, you wouldn't be burned out, and therefore it's all your fault. And the issue with that is that America actually requires burnout for success. It actually demands that you or someone else or both burn out in order to get that, because we have been it's enculturated as even too weak, I'll be really honest. Before there were founding documents in the United States on the land, there was already an American culture. So the first group of white folks that came over in the 1600s, they colonized the land, and they had a lot of things about them. But the three that matter the most to us right now are that they believed, one, that you could only be a good person if you worked really hard. Two, you could only be a good person if you did all that hard work alone. And three, you can sleep when you were dead. And that really lines up well with excessive resource accumulation. And the American dream, truly, if we're honest with ourselves, is about resource accumulation. So that kind of through line, it goes completely unchecked until women enter the workforce. And we start to have larger conversations about where people burn out, what it is, what it all looks like. So all of that to say, my little team and I, my research partner, Dr. Erin Hinson, and I both deeply believe that it is not an individual's fault they are burned out. It is, however, their responsibility to do something about it.
You know, you touched on something that I think I've heard my dad say a million times is I can sleep when I'm dead. Like right when you said that, I was like, oh, I've heard that phrase like a million times from my own father. You have a rubric, the 4 R's we'll call them, the rest, rejuvenation, realignment, and reconnection. And it offers this roadmap. Can you walk us through that and the changes that people can maybe make to rebuild and give themselves a little more emotional capacity and maybe move away from this overworking mentality?
For sure. First of all, let me say that these are practices. That means that you're going to be good at them some days and bad at them others. It means that they're going to change. All of your practices around burnout, recovery, mitigation, wherever you are, also can change. They're written in pencil. So here are the 4 categories that we've found through research and personal stories work the best. So the first one is rest. And as much as it is annoying, you do have to sleep. And you cannot sleep when you are dead. You need to sleep now. Your body needs actual time to regulate your nervous system, and one of those ways is through sleep. Now, most burnout prevention or cures or whatever, they'll stop there and they'll say that's the major one, you need to find rest. Well, I thought that was crap because I've had insomnia forever. And so actually telling me that I need to sleep and that's the only way out of burnout felt unkind. So we did a bunch more research. We thought about some other things and we came up with the other 3. And the first kind of subsidiary one is rejuvenation, which means joy. Like do things that make you happy. We often in the United States believe that fun is for children and we mock other adults who choose to have fun. We need to stop that. We need to let people have their fun. If it's not hurting you and it's not hurting them, we need to stop mocking people for loving Taylor Swift and getting really excited about, pick a thing. But we've got to stop. So that's a major one. The third one, realignment, is basically your spiritual practice. If you have a current spiritual practice, then this is where you'd slot that in. If not, we'd encourage you to incorporate something that reminds you that you're allowed to take naps because the tides will come in if you are awake or not. That you are beloved and loved in this universe and important, but you're not imperative. And you've got to figure out how to strike that balance in your mind and also possibly in your company. And then 4 is reconnection. This is when you spend time with your people, not proximity with strangers, your people, the folks that know who you are when you've forgotten. So you need to get some sleep. You need to have fun. You need to remember who you are, and you need to surround yourself with people who will help you.
Yeah, you touched on it in there when talking about realignment, about companies, right? And companies, many of us have worked for agencies or hospitals or wherever you've worked, that the overworking and the burnout is just prevalent throughout the organization. And so I think a lot of companies are trying to change that, right? They're trying to give more work-life balance. So like, what are some strategies that you found that are effective for companies to be able to protect their people from this burnout?
It all starts with curiosity. So the first questions that need to be asked is, very legitimately, are we doing anything that could contribute to this? Your answer might be no. It might be, we've done everything we can and this is still happening. But my guess is that something on there, something in your cultural practices is not centering the personhood of your employees. It's instead centering their productivity. Now, I'm a business owner. I'm a second generation business owner. I really, really love making sure that people can get paid and keeping the lights on. So this is not a never ever prioritize your customers or your profits. Instead, this is a call to hold those two things in a tension with each other that's possible. The key way to do that is to make sure that at all times you are prioritizing personhood over productivity. The kind of tinier thing is to model these practices yourself. So you can say to people, hey, I know we're going to pull 3 overnight shifts because the candidate is doing something or the hospital is doing something. Do you need time to go take a walk and breathe? Where are your practices? I'm going to go do that. I can't let you go right now. I can't give you a whole night's sleep, but here's what I can give you, and let's work with that. I think a lot of times burnout education assumes that companies can do full-scale overhauls and that they can just treat people better magically. And in my experience, both as a second generation business owner and then as this educator now, I've met very few bosses that don't want to treat their employees well. I've certainly met some. But most of them really, really do. They just don't quite know how. And so the best way to do that, honestly, is to start just getting honest. In what ways am I not doing it? And are those fixable? And then here I've offered you a small rubric of tiny but very, very creative and flexible and wide-ranging ways that you can create space for your employees emotionally.
Right. What's a structural change that you'd like to see adopted to curb this burnout problem that we have?
Man, that's such a great question. Right. But I think one of the major structural changes, this sounds really strange, is a requirement of all leaders to know everyone's names that they are directly responsible for. And if you're in a small enough company, you should know the names of everybody. And the more we engage with people's identities, the more we can center who they are as people, especially in companies where there's been a real disconnect between the corner offices and the rest of the company, especially labor-driven companies where there might be language barriers. A structural change is effort to know the people that work with you. And leaders, our job is to take care of the people that take care of our customers. That's our job. And if we are losing sight of that, that is something that needs to shift.
Well, and it shifts from a more number on a page, name, faceless person that we don't know to this empathetic, understanding perspective of this worker has a family at home. They are trying to do this, and the burnout becomes more personal rather than the non-personal, as you mentioned, the corner office to the worker who might be out in the field kind of perspective.
Yeah. And that's not saying that you as a leader or an owner should be a doormat. It's not saying they get everything they need and everything they want, but there are so many more things that are negotiations and conversations than I think we assume. And that is a posture that is always good to start, is that everything is a conversation.
Yeah. Dr. Donnelly, if people want to find more about what you're working on, they're interested, how do they find you and the work?
The website is Dr. Kristen Speaks, and my name is spelled with an E-N because my parents are Danish and not Swedish. So it's drkristenspeaks.com. You'll find my information, you'll find our book, and you'll find links to the rest of our websites.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Donnelly, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights with me today.
My gosh, thanks for having me.
All right, well, hey, if this episode sparked new ideas, follow the show, share it with someone who's passionate about research, culture, human connection. I'm Nick Franck. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you for the next Innovators Journey.